Quick question.
Yes, Alice.
Hi, how are you doing over there?
We are already recording. Yes, doing good.
I'm trying.
Okay,
Oh,
very good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are actually starting our first voter education workshop of a series of many to come here in the next few months. So we will have voter education workshops, one more this month, December 2023, followed by more in the upcoming elections. But before we actually get started, I do want to offer our language interpretation services for the very first time. We are actually offering these services where you can listen in Spanish, Tagalog, Korean, Cantonese, Mandarin, and or Vietnamese. All you need to do is click on the interpretation icon, looks like a globe, and it will give you a selection of channels that you're able to choose from. So with that, I'll go ahead and go to our next slide. Whoops, I think I went too fast. Actually, I didn't. That's correct. Very good. So again, this is one of our many March 5th voter education workshops, and this one's primarily focusing on March 5th, 2024 for our presidential primary election, which we definitely have a lot of work to do here at the Registrar of Voters office. So again, as we prepare, we absolutely will be providing more information to our public. First things first, I do want to start out with introductions of the Registrar of Voters team. My name is Art Tinoco. I am the recently appointed Registrar of Voters for Riverside County. Have been with the agency for a little bit over 21 years, moved my way up through the ranks, and again, have been able to oversee and also understand elections from the perspective of multiple elections that we must conduct from federal, state, and local elections. We'll continue doing introductions. As far as an assistant registrar of voters, that position is vacant, which is my previously held position. We are actively recruiting for that position as we speak. I'll let the remainder of the staff please introduce yourselves and then provide us a little bit of information regarding what you do. So I believe, Matt, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Ceballos. I'm the Chief Deputy overseeing voter and candidate services. Like the slide states, our section is responsible for campaign disclosure, candidate filings, general customer service, petitions, and then when we slide into election processing mode, the vote by mail process, as well as continuous file maintenance.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and go to Alice. Can you please introduce yourself?
hi everyone. My name is Alice Kim. I'm the Chief Deputy Registrar of Voters for the Operations Division. And under my division, we work with election officers, the onboarding, the training, and of course, the assigning of them at the vote centers. Also, the findings of the vote centers, the surveying of the vote centers. GIS is under our Operations Division as well as our logistics team, which include the record retention.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you so very much for the introductions. And so again, this is our management team, and we also have one more person, which is Elizabeth. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Floor. I am the newly appointed Public Information Officer. Today is day one. So I'm certainly going to learn a lot more about what I will be doing with the office, but I know that voter outreach and education is extremely important, and I look forward to jumping into that as soon as possible. And maintaining our social media sites, press releases, and our media outlook in general.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So again, welcome everyone to, again, our first meeting for our voter education workshop. So let me go ahead and continue through our slides. I just want to introduce everyone to our agency. Again, Registrar of Voters conducts federal, state, and local elections, but more than anything, we ensure that the electoral process is conducted professionally, consistently demonstrating neutrality, nonpartisan decision-making based upon a thorough knowledge and compliance with all election laws and administering them responsibly with integrity on behalf of those served. So that is our mission statement, and we definitely take that very serious. What is it that we do? Of course, we provide state mandated services. We do conduct federal, state, and local elections. We do maintain a voter registration, which is quite massive with over 1.3 million registered voters. And we also provide a lot of our outreach, and we're definitely working on expanding that footprint as we move into the March 5th, 2024 election. We do operate with an annual budget of about $20 million, and we also are a staff of approximately 44 permanent positions. However, we do grow to approximately 900 staff, which includes County of Riverside temporary employees. The Voters' Choice Act adoption is very important to us as we are a vote center Voters' Choice Act county. So the Register of Voters works to comply with all aspects of this Voters' Choice Act. Just to give you a little bit of a history of what we've done and then where we're at today. In 2016, again, the state of California passed the Voters' Choice Act, known as the VCA. In December of 2021, Riverside County Board of Supervisors approved, to be exact, on December 14th, that we moved to the Voters' Choice Act. And therefore, we've been on the Voters' Choice Act since 2022. In order to conduct our first election in June of 2022, we were mandated to prepare a election administration plan, and it had to be approved, and it was approved on May of 2022. That was our first election administration plan we worked on. Again, the plan was only good for that particular time period, and we were asked again to prepare an election administration plan for the next 4 years. So we updated the May 2022 version, and we actually did that between July of 2023, this year to be exact, through September 2023. Again, we held our public consultation meetings and public hearings so that we could solicit any public feedback, which we got a lot of feedback. On October 2023, or this is just a few months ago, the election administration plan was approved again. And again, it is approved for the next 4 years, and we will most definitely be looking and following the plan to ensure that we are in compliance. The voter education workshops, again, this being the first series of many to come. Again, December 2023, we will be completing the voter education workshops by February of 2024. So again, I invite the public to please join us if there is an interest at all of these voter education workshops if you prefer. And our voter education workshops are designed for general public, voters with disabilities, and also anybody from the public that wishes to participate from the various languages that we're mandated to provide these services in, which includes Spanish under Section 203, and under the state requirements we do have in Riverside County, Chinese, which is Mandarin or Cantonese, and then we also have Vietnamese, Korean, and Tagalog. Oops, I think I went too far again. Apologize for that. I do have a very sensitive computer. So the Voters' Choice Act election administration plan, of course, it's not an easy feat to prepare and actually go through the various stages before we engage in a election. But the plan describes Riverside County's strategy to administer elections under the California's Voters' Choice Act, but it also communicates the county's plan to conduct voter education and outreach, recruit and select vote centers and ballot drop-off locations, and also the staffing, logistics, and multilingual services, which I'll be speaking more about here momentarily. And of course, the security and contingency plans, and much, much more. Again, our election administration plan can be found at the Register of Voters website at voteinfo.net. We absolutely have updated our website here at the Register of Voters office to allow our public to better navigate. It is much more user-friendly. So again, we appreciate any feedback that you may have. I was going to ask if somebody could monitor, Alma, can you monitor the chat in the event that someone has questions as we go along? I will have an opportunity for questions at the end. And I'd love to hear any suggestions or questions that you may have as we go through this presentation.
So I'm sorry, our other
Yes.
interpreters are asking if we can slow down a bit. They're having
Oh,
some
sure.
difficult time catching up. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. So the development of the 2024 election administration plan required several phases. And phase one required the registrar to update the previous election administration plan. And again, that was based on what worked best and also the most recent elections. And that took place in July of 2023. Phase two of the plan, again, required us to provide public consultation meetings for the draft election administration plan. And again, these were held by the Register of Voters for the Disability and Language Access Communities between August 1st of 2023 and August 10th of 2023. As part of phase three, we had a 14-day public comment period on this draft election administration plan. The draft EAP was posted to our website, and again, comments were being solicited, and those could be submitted by using our email address rovweb@rivco.org. And or mailed to the Registrar of Voters office. And that took place between August 14th through August 29th of 2023. Phase four of the plan required us to hold public hearings for this draft election administration plan. And again, this was held by the Registrar of Voters office to receive comments on the draft election administration plan, and then changes were then incorporated to the EAP plan in response to those comments, which is about August 29th. Our fifth step was the 14-day comment period on this plan. And then step 6 required the Registrar of Voters to adopt the final election administration plan after reviewing all comments received during this public comment period that ended in September of 2023. And then phase 7 of the development of this plan is our final election administration plan, which was submitted, and it is currently posted on our Registrar of Voters website. And again, the plan was submitted to the California Secretary of State, and then of course the approval came to us in September of 2023. And at this point, that phase, or all those phases 1 through 7, were completed in compliance with all requirements. I do want to talk a little bit about the Voters' Choice Act, really what changed. And really, we transitioned to what is known as the vote center model. As you can see to your right, you are probably noticing some of the voting equipment that has been used since June of 2022. We also use the same model and equipment for the November 2022 election. And just recently, we had a small city of Paris election where we used, again, the same vote center model. As Riverside County transitioned to this vote center model, it is important to note that every registered voter does receive a vote by mail ballot starting 29 days before election day. In-person voting is also expanded in several vote centers. So we do have vote centers that open for 11 days. And all vote centers open for 4 days, including election day, and the times and hours vary. Ballot drop-off locations are also open under this model for 29 days, including election day. And I'll share more details about the times of operation and more about the dates here momentarily. So really our focus today is going to be the upcoming election on March 5th, 2024, also known as the Consolidated Presidential Primary Election. It is a top 2 primary election with an expected voter turnout of probably 55 to 60%. And that is based on historical information that we've had. But again, that can definitely change depending on the interest and voter sentiment, which again, it's very hard to predict as we go into any election. We will be talking more about the November 5th, 2024 consolidated presidential election in future months as we gear up for that election. But just to give you a quick overview of expected voter turnout, we're probably expecting a little bit over 80% turnout. And again, general elections tend to bring in a lot of interest from the public. And as we've seen, again, based on historical analysis in previous elections. So I'd like to also focus on the overview of the election. And for March of 2024, we again have approximately a little over 1.3 million registered voters and that we administer and maintain their voter registration files. We have approximately 106 ballot drop-off locations that we will be operating throughout the county of Riverside. We do have 11-day vote centers, which will also start operating throughout the county of Riverside, and we have 17 of those. We also have 4-day vote centers, approximately 131 total. And all 148 vote centers will be operating again on 4 days before the election. But I do want to point out that now voters have more days and more ways to vote than in polling place elections that we used to run prior to June 2022. We also have party-specific ballots for the March 2024 election, and I'd like to point out to our public that party-specific ballots is an incredible concept to know during March primary presidential elections, like we will see this upcoming 2024 election cycle. The reason for that is in order for a voter to receive a party-specific ballot, either the voter has to be registered for that particular party and or the party themselves will allow what we call crossover ballots, which is the next item you see on this list. Crossover voting is again, only political parties will allow no party preference voters to cross over and request a ballot with the contest of those parties' choices. Crossover ballots is again a concept that is very, very important during primary elections. I will speak more about this topic here momentarily. We also have a certification process that we must conduct within 30 days, which I will have more details as we move on further through my slides. Important dates for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election. I think the first date is the date we will start mailing our vote by mail ballots to the public for this March 5th, 2024 election. And that is 29 days before the election. So February 5th, 2024, expect to start receiving your ballots a few days after those dates. We're mandated by law to start issuing and mailing those ballots and no later than or actually within 5 days. So the law is very specific on that sense. Also, 29 days before the election, we do have ballot drop-off locations that are open. As we mentioned in the previous slide, we will have 106 of those locations, and they'll be open for 29 days, and they open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that includes that does not include weekends, but that does include election day, which the ballot drop-off locations are also open. And on election day, vote center and ballot drop-off locations will open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The other important date to note is the last day to register to vote or change a political party preference. And again, political party preference is the key for a primary election in order to receive a conditional voter registration ballot. And again, the idea here is 14 days. However, because California does have some same day voter registration, voters are able to still request to register to vote up to election day and also request to vote a ballot, which we call a conditional voter registration ballot. Also important to note is 10 days before the election, which is February 24th, is the last day to register to vote or change a political party preference and receive a conditional voter registration ballot. In other words, during this time period, if you miss the deadline and you do go to any vote center and request to register to vote, you will be issued a conditional voter registration ballot. Prior terminology is a provisional ballot, and the terminology has changed. Also, it's important to note the next item is 17 vote centers will open for in-person early voting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And again, that will start on um, uh, February 24th, and that all does include weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, starting on February 24th. And then also E-7 or 7 days before the election is the last day to request a vote by mail ballot. And the reason why we point this out is if a voter wishes to request a vote by mail ballot and they want us to send it via the Postal Service does need time to get that official ballot to that voter timely. And again, we prefer that these requests are made in advance so that there are no constraints on time and the voter not being able to receive those requests. The other important date is the 3 days before the election. Again, 148 vote centers open in Riverside County, again, for early voting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on election day, again, all vote centers and any ballot drop-off sites will continue to open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, the last day to accept vote by mail ballot is going to be the 7 days before the election. And of course, we do plan to, let me talk a little bit about the E+7, which is 7 days after the election. That is what we call postmark ballot law. And the law allows us, as long as the voter was able to postmark their ballot on election day and get it to our office within 7 days, we can still count that ballot. And that's the postmark law. And then E+30, which is after election day, 30 days after that, that is when we do plan to certify the election results, which puts us at April 4th of 2024. I want to talk a little bit about the voter experience for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary. So we are currently actively preparing our voter information guides for this particular election, and we are excited about the election itself, but also making sure that all of these guides go out on time. So we are mandated, our first legal deadline to start setting these out is 40 days before election day. And for March 5th, 2024, voters will be receiving their voter information guides timely. The voter information guide contains a lot of critical information that voters need to be aware of before they actually make a decision on how they want to vote their ballot. It contains a list of all 148 vote centers. So in Riverside County, voters can go to any one of these 148 vote centers, let it be 11-day vote centers or 4-day vote centers. We are working diligently to provide our voters throughout the county of Riverside additional information that will identify all of these various locations and their times of operation. Again, the guide also contains a list of all 106 vote by mail drop-off locations, and also there's a sample ballot included in this guide that allows a voter to see their specific ballot and what it looks like, what contests are contained within the ballot. This book may also be taken to a vote center if the voter chooses to use it as a reference. The book also contains candidate statements for state and local candidates, and therefore this information is contained within the book that again becomes very handy for a voter to review. I also want to point out that there will be candidate statements for non-local state officials that will only be located in the state official guide that all voters also receive. And for the state, it's only one member of the household that receives the state voter guide. However, this county voter information guide in Riverside County goes to all active registered voters. Also, this book contains information about language services, which again, we do provide language services not only at vote centers, but there are various documents that we can also provide them in. As I mentioned earlier, we do have various documents, and again, for the whole county, Spanish under Section 203, and for state mandated languages, Tagalog, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Korean. We also have an RAVBM system, which stands for Remote Accessible Vote by Mail System. This system was only available at one time, a point in time, for military voters. This system is now available for anybody that wishes to use it and or needs to use it. So the legislation has changed over time, and that link is going to be available on our Register of Voters website. However, you could also find information in this county voter information guide for your reference. Again, booklet is extremely important to voters in order to make good decisions and also understand the voting process. What's important to note about the County Voter Information Guide for a primary election, especially for the March 5th, 2024 election, is that voters, based on how they are registered, that's the type of booklet that will be received. We will have booklets created for any voters registered with the American Independent Party, the Democratic Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Peace and Freedom Party, the Republican Party. And of course, there is another important and unique aspect of a primary election, which is the no party preference. There are in Riverside County over 200,000 registered voters that are registered as no party preference. What that means is if a party allows crossover, these voters are or will be allowed to request a ballot of those parties. However, there are parties that do not allow crossover, and you are required to register in order to receive a ballot of that party. Also, being a no party preference voter, it's very important if you do want to associate with the party to do it before the close of the registration period, as we mentioned earlier. And therefore, this is going to be important, and I'll talk more about it on the next slide. Again, part of the voter experience, again, that no party preference is going to be critical for the March election. So for voters who are registered no party preference, we will be mailing out a no party preference voters postcard to inform them on how they can vote a crossover ballot to vote for president. This election, the parties are allowing crossover, and if you do receive one of these cards, if you are registered no party preference, on the left side, we will provide you an explanation of who or which parties are allowing you to vote for them, etc. But if you want to vote for, what is important is if you're currently registered to vote as no party preference, you will receive a vote by mail ballot for the March 5th election. That does not include candidates for U.S. president unless you return this postcard. So again, these postcards will start going out in the mail probably in the next week or so. And these postcards must be returned to us by January 15th in order for us to process them in 2024. These cards, again, will provide not only information about why it's important that you consider either re-registering if you are a no party preference voter, or you may simply decide that you are okay with maintaining that registration as no party preference, and maybe you are one of the voters that is able to cross over into one of the political parties that allow you to vote in their presidential primary. For March, it's the American Independent, Democratic, and Libertarian parties. So again, as long as you're able to cross over, then you would be fine. However, if you are not, the party is not allowing you to vote in the presidential primary. If those parties do include the Green, Peace and Freedom, and Republican parties. If you decide that you do want to re-register, you can do that online, going to voteinfo.net. On our website, also the California Secretary of State's website, or also by contacting our office and requesting a voter registration card. If you decide to re-register, again, you do want to make sure that you're doing it before the end of the registration period. Also, you can see that the back of this card requests, if you are going to request a specific ballot for the crossover, let it be for the American Independent Party, the Democratic Party, or the Libertarian Party that's allowing crossover, you do need to fill out this card. You do need to sign it, and you need to place a date on it, and then provide your residence address as well, your name, of course, and date of birth. So that will be very, very important as voters start receiving these, and we know that that's going to generate a lot of questions. And again, that's why our Department Public Information Officer will be working on providing a lot of outreach information, and then providing a lot of information via the various media outlets. As far as the voter experience, again, for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary, this is an image of our official return envelope that voters simply will place their official voted ballot into the envelope and then return it to our office. And it's postage paid, as you can see on the envelope. Again, vote by mail ballots, they're mailed to every registered voter under the Voters' Choice Act, and ballots will start going out to voters by February 5th, 2024. Then again, postage paid return envelope. Again, postmark law is 7 days, as long as the voter gets their envelope postmarked on or before Election Day and returns it to our office within 7 days, we will still be able to take that particular ballot envelope. Ballot Tracks is a system, it's a state system that allows the voter to track their ballot, and it's it's used quite often by our voting public throughout the state of California. Voters can also return their ballot by mail, or they can return their ballot to one of 106 ballot drop-off locations countywide, or 148 vote centers, again, countywide. Again, the County Voter Information Guide provides you all of these details, or also voters may bring their ballots to the registrar of voters office in Riverside. We do have 2 drop boxes, secure drop boxes that are available 24/7, starting again 29 days before the election. Again, as part of the voter experience, the vote center model allows for 148 locations, which include libraries, community centers, senior centers, amongst many other types of sites, including schools. We'll open 17 11-day vote centers throughout the county that will start operating February 24th through Election Day. And then an additional 131 vote centers that will open on March 2nd, and again through Election Day. It's very important to note that vote centers will operate on weekends. That includes Saturdays and Sundays. Each of the vote centers will be staffed with members of the community. We'll have 2 staff members from the county of Riverside that we will thoroughly train through our academy, which we have available at least for 4 weeks to get all of these folks trained. And then, of course, the remaining staff members will be members of the community. They are paid volunteers that will be participating. If anybody in the public wishes to participate, please reach out to us. We do have a lot of openings. Also, we do have live connectivity to our voter registration database, which means that is why you're able to go to any vote center. If you live in the city of Riverside and you're visiting family members in Blythe, for example, you're able to go to Blythe and actually cast your ballot, because we'll be able to locate your information in Blythe and be able to give you the correct ballot that you are eligible for. Each of the sites will have 10 ballot marking devices. And again, these are the tablets, also known as the accessible voting units. We also have paper ballot on demand. If a voter chooses not to use the accessible voting unit, which is our ballot marking device, they may also request a paper ballot that can be printed on demand at each of the vote centers. New this election that voters have not had much experience with is our ballot scanner. I actually have next a video that I will be showing you to introduce our Riverside County's voters to the ballot scanner that will be utilized as we get there. We also have conditional voter registration available. Again, once you actually run past the close of registration deadline, then you do have conditional voter registration available through election day, also known as same-day voter registration. We also offer language services, as mentioned before, and I'll share more details here in a few minutes about the types of language services that we do offer. And of course, our accessible voting services that are also offered. As part of the election overview, the language services include a language assistance card that is given to voters anytime they need assistance with any of the particular languages that we're mandated to provide assistance in. We also provide translated ballots in the Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese, or Tagalog languages for select voting precincts throughout Riverside County, and that is there are certain pockets in our communities that require these additional services. We also have bilingual election officers stationed throughout the various vote centers requiring those services, such as Spanish bilingual election officers, Tagalog, Korean, Vietnamese, and Chinese. On-demand video and telephonic interpreting services will be something new that we are working with. And we are actually currently obtaining those services from a vendor that actually has provided and continues to provide these services to other counties in California. We plan to use the on-demand video services for the public to be able to go to any vote center and be able to communicate effectively in their language of choice with our representatives so that we are able to provide the full suite of services that may be needed by that particular voter or member of the public. We also have a language accessibility advisory committee. We meet quarterly, and we do have a chair that runs those meetings. The Accessibility Advisory Committee, as the terminology indicates, it is an advisory committee to assist us with, again, making and or facilitating the voter process. And those meetings, everybody in the public is invited to attend and provide feedback. As part of the election overview, we also have accessibility services. We spoke about the remote accessible vote by mail process. Again, any voter is allowed to use this system by going onto the website or Register of Voters website at voteinfo.net and being able to access a remote accessible vote by mail ballot and instructions on how to properly submit your voted ballot. We also have accessibility surveys of vote centers that must be conducted in accordance with state requirements, state and federal requirements to be exact. And we also have curbside voting, which allows the voter to vote as the terminology indicates at the curb. Our voting equipment is capable of being taken out by two of the vote center poll workers, and the voter is either allowed to vote on the accessible voting unit, or the voter may also request to vote a paper ballot and or be provided other services as necessary. We do have proper signage outside of each of our vote centers that has a phone number and a way to communicate with the election officers that are working at each of the vote centers. Again, the accessible voting unit is simply our tablets, also known as ballot marking devices. As you see to your right, there's an image of what that system looks like. To the right of it, you'll see the printer that is utilized to print your ballot selections. The Voting Accessibility Advisory Committees also exists to allow the committee to advise the registrar of voters on how to make voting much more accessible and better for anybody who is voting. Now I'm going to present to you the video on our ballot scanner that I had mentioned earlier. It is the very first time we are using the ballot scanner for voters to be able to cast their ballots at any of the vote centers throughout Riverside County. So I'll just go ahead and hit play and we'll get started.
Sorry, Art, I cannot hear any of the video audio.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I cannot hear the video audio.
Okay, and I do have the video audio going.
Do you want me to go ahead and share it?
Is there something I need to do? Yeah, go ahead and share it. Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Up next, let's see the ballot scanner in action. The election officer assigned to the ballot scanner will greet the voter and instruct the voter to insert their ballot into the ballot scanner. Let the voter know that you can assist them if needed. First, let's go over a function of the ballot scanner. Upon request from the voter, the ballot scanner language can be changed from the default language of English to Spanish. This language change can be done at the beginning or at any time during the scanning session. After the voter has completed their session, the scanner will return to English. Let's see a voter with a good BOD paper ballot. Good ballots are ballots with no issues, meaning the voter properly voted for every contest on their ballot. Once the ballot is inserted into the ballot scanner, the ballot will cast and drop into the ballot card. For voters who choose to use a ballot secrecy sleeve, collect it and give them an I voted sticker. Next, let's see what the review screen of the ballot scanner looks like. The voter can navigate the review screen by pressing the up and down arrows. Shown here is an undervoted ballot. When a voter does not vote for every contest allotted to them, that is considered an undervoted ballot. For example, a contest asking for 3 selections, but the voter only selected 2. The voter can press return to get their ballot back to complete at a voting booth. Or they can press cast without making any additional selections. When the ballot scanner detects an overvote, the voter will have the option to request a new ballot from the election officer or cast the ballot as is. Election officer should let the voter know that if they cast their ballot as is, they will forfeit the overvoted contest, and no selection will be tabulated for that contest. Another scenario is the ambiguous mark. This can happen if a voter has not fully filled in their bubble, or if a voter marks their ballot with an X instead of filling in their bubble. The ballot scanner will not take ballots with ambiguous marks. The voter will need to remedy their ballot if possible. If not possible, the voter will need a new ballot. The review screen will also show if the voter wrote in a candidate's name as their selection for a contest. If a voter does not fill in any selection on their ballot, the review screen will show the ballot as blank. The voter will have the option to go back to a voting booth to fill out their ballot. Some voters might want to cast a blank ballot. If the voter uses red ink on their ballot, the ballot scanner cannot detect it. The review screen will show the ballot as blank. Voters who use the AVU will also cast their ballot into the ballot scanner. Let's see a voter with a good AVU ballot. Good ballots are ballots with no issues, meaning the voter properly voted for every contest on their ballot. Once the ballot is inserted into the ballot scanner, the ballot will cast and drop into the ballot card. For AVU ballots with an undervote, the review screen will alert the voter that they can make additional selection for the undervoted contest. If the voter wishes to fill in the undervoted selections, the voter will require a new session of the AVU. The AVU does not allow the voter to overvote on the AVU. And with that, the voter has cast their ballot. Finish things up by giving the voter an I voted sticker.
Outstanding. That was the video. Alma, if you can stop share so I can share my screen. Thank you. And I apologize for that snafu. I just did not think that it was going to be a problem. Let me see. I just need to go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, and I apologize for that. I'm having a difficulty with just moving forward through this video. Perfect. Next. Perfect. All right. So going on through our election overview, again, that was the ballot scanner. I do want to point out that voters are not required to place their ballots through the ballot scanner. There is
Sorry,
yes.
the PowerPoint still shows the language selection of the video.
The language selection of the video. That is
Yes,
very interesting. All right, let me see what I can do. Language selection of the video. Let me see if that changes anything. Let me share. Can you see anything different?
Perfect. We're on the correct slide.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alma. So again, the election overview, what I did want to point out, and just as I was pointing out, is voters are not required to place their ballots through the ballot scanner. They do have the option to drop them off in a slot behind the ballot scanner, which is a ballot drop-off slot. And those ballots will come back to our office, and those actually will need to be scanned in order for us to count those ballots. Any ballots that go through the scanner, our poll workers at the end of the night will be extracting an SD card that will then come to Office Central, where the votes will actually be uploaded into our system so that we can count them in that manner. So again, voters are not required to use the ballot scanner. They may also drop off the ballots in the ballot box on those units. With that, just a quick tentative schedule for ballot results on election night. I think this is important. At 8 p.m., we do close the polls. At approximately 8:20 p.m. on election day, March 5th, vote by mail and early voting results will be released. At approximately 9 p.m., we do have this election. We're not going to have midday ballot pickup results. Or I just want to point out that midday pickup was a process we were using in past elections. And what's important to note is that program is no longer necessary. Again, as we will be able to gather up our ballots and be able to process them. First vote center results will be released at approximately 10 p.m. as workers continue transporting ballots from around the county to Riverside for counting. This update does include vote center ballots arriving here to the office prior to 9:30 p.m. We do plan to do hourly vote center results updates until approximately 1 a.m. And then after 1 a.m., we will release approximately every 90 minutes, depending on voter turnout. vote center ballot counts will likely continue until 3 a.m. on Wednesday, March 6th. And again, that is just a quick snapshot of the upcoming election night details. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide. We're almost there. It's just giving me a little bit of a problem. It won't go. Must be the internet connectivity. There we go. As part of the election overview still, again, the election certification period, VBM ballots dropped off at vote centers will be reviewed. Postmark vote by mail ballots, again, the 7 days. Anybody that postmarks their ballots on or before election day will also be worked on. Also, we're mandated any ballots that come back to us that that were not signed by error or voter error. Those ballots, we will be sending a voter a letter informing them of ways that they can correct that so that their ballot does count. We also have signature verification statements anytime that the voter's signature changes. We also provide a voter a notification. It's a letter that allows the voter to know how they can cure those ballots, and so the ballot is counted. We also have conditional voter registration. Again, that is the former provisional ballot process. And then a 1% manual tally that all the public is invited to. And that process is available for us to be able to review 1% of all precincts in Riverside County and be able to also select those precincts and then hand count them. And then we compare those counts to the actual reports released by the voting equipment used to scan and tally the voter ballots. We do plan to certify election by April 14, 2024, as previously indicated. Again, this is my last slide, voter education and outreach plan. As we spoke earlier, Elizabeth, our public information officer, will be extremely involved in expanding our outreach and education footprint. Again, with all this, we do have public hearings that thoroughly explain the Voters' Choice Act. We also have a new ROV website. We are going to be increasing our social media presence, our newspaper, radio, television presence, billboard advertisements. And of course, we are going to continue expanding our suite of educational videos for our voters. We do plan on partnerships with high schools, colleges, and universities. And we plan on attending community engagements even more than we've ever done. And again, we have multiple direct voter contacts throughout the county. We are working with various consultants to assist us through this upcoming March 2024 and beyond the 2024 election cycle. And of course, we will be sending out various surveys to our constituents and also to folks who participate in specific programs. And that is something that we plan to do as we move further into the upcoming election 2024 cycle. With that, I'd like to open up the forum for any questions that anybody may have. Please feel free to use the chat or simply feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Sounds like I don't see Alma, anybody on the chat?
No questions on the chat.
No questions on the chat. And anybody on the call that may have questions, please feel free. No questions? All right, well, with no further ado then, this pretty much completes or concludes my presentation on the voter education workshop. This is our first one. Again, thank you for participating. And if you do have any comments or questions beyond just this presentation, feel free to contact our office. We'd be more than happy to review and also provide any answers to any of those questions. Have a great afternoon. And again, looking forward to touching base here in the near future. Take care.